What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about why so many exotic rental car companies fail. So I can go on for hours on why so many exotic rental car companies fail, but I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons. Now, the reason why I picked this topic today is because I do a lot of consulting calls along with YouTube. And so I get hundreds of calls in the last 3 years talking about, I want to do an exotic rental car company. It's the coolest thing. Everybody wants to do it. And so I want to save you guys a lot of time and a lot of headache and point out a lot of the flaws that these companies are making. Number 5 is market area. This confuses a lot of people. People think just because there's no exotic rental car company in your area and you live in somewhat of a big city, it must be a good thing since there's nobody there. I had a call last week of a guy saying that he wants to open up one in Oklahoma City because there's nobody there, the market's ripe, there's professional athletes and a lot of oil money there. He thinks that that spot would be great. And so I told him, let's play devil's advocate. Out of all the people there, I'm sure you're not the only one that's thought about doing an exotic rental car company. Why do you think the other people didn't do it? I was like, they probably hired somebody like myself to do research on the market to realize that in 90 days, you're going to be burned through all your customers and then you'll be broke. And so he proceeded to tell me, no, that's not the case, man. You know, there's so much money here. There's people here, blah, blah, blah. And so I asked him, how many people are cruising around downtown Oklahoma City during like a weekend? Is that like the cool spot to hang out with? Is there certain areas where it's always trendy and it's gonna be like that? Probably not so much. Now, I live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. We have 2 million people here, and we have hundreds of thousands of people that fly into Vegas every month to basically throw their money away. Even with all that being said, we still have slow days, slow weeks, and even slow months. So if Vegas, like I said, the entertainment capital of the world, has slow times, how do you think it's going to be in Oklahoma City? And that usually rings the bell in a lot of people's heads. I've seen so many people open up in these small areas just because there's nobody there. They think it's a great way to do it. Or like, the summer times are booming or something like that. You never want to open up a seasonal rental car company. You pretty much are doomed to fail. I've seen them for years. People start them because maybe there's certain events, a lot of money flying in. I set up a few friends that were in different places in Napa, going through the vineyards and stuff during the summer. But at the end of the season, those cars just sit there collecting dust and the insurance is astronomical, so it just wastes money. So my advice, unless you're in a very big area with a lot of tourism, don't even think about doing it. To be honest with you, there's only a handful of places I would recommend. Vegas, LA, San Diego, probably Houston, Miami, Orlando, probably New York. That's about it, to be honest with you. The rest of these places, I don't think it'd be good enough for it to drive these cars year round. Now, the 4th reason why most rental car companies fail is they pick the wrong cars. This is a very common problem that a lot of rental car companies have. Everybody thinks that, oh, this is exactly what the customer wants. I like this car. That means the customer's going to like that car. There could be nothing further from the truth. If you've watched my channel, Houston's channel, or Rob Ferretti's channel, we always make jokes about this. We think the car is going to be good, but then nobody winds up getting it. A lot of cars I tell people to stay away from are like Aston Martins, Bentleys, and Rolls Royces. They are not good renters. Now, for a little while, the Cullens were kind of popping, but as you can see now, they've kind of fallen off a cliff, and they're not really that desirable. Plus, the money you spend, it's not really worth it. The ROI is simply not there. So I tell a lot of people, so why risk $200,000 to buy something like this when you know the car is going to be sitting there majority of the time? Get something else or rent more or buy 2 or 3 cheaper cars to get it out. We just did some consulting for a guy in Atlanta. He got his license, did everything correctly, and I told him that he should get 3 Lamborghini Huracans because he'll probably stay busy with his marketing and everything else. I think he'll do really well. But he didn't take my advice. He wound up taking one of his friends' advice and said, you know what? You don't need 3 Huracans. You need 1 Aventador and 1 regular Huracan. So now the Huracan is rented out every single weekend for $1,800 a day. But unfortunately, the Aventador is $3,300 a day, and it just sits there, and it very rarely gets rented. I think maybe 2 to 3 times a month, if that. So now he has this massive insurance bill, this massive payment on this car where he could have just sold that thing and take that $400,000 loan and buy 2 more $200,000 cars to put out there and basically eat up some of that market share. And the 3rd reason why most exotic rental car companies fail is because of maintenance. Something so simplistic, but people just can't comprehend it. Now, it's very hard to have people wrap their minds around actually doing preventative maintenance instead of breakdown maintenance. It's two separate things, but when it comes to exotic rental cars, you have to do that preventative maintenance to actually keep the value of your car. So if you drive it 5,000 miles and you take it into, let's say, Lamborghini or Ferrari, and it wants $20,000 worth of stuff, you're probably gonna have to spend that money. But these guys are like, if it's not broken, don't fix it, let's just ride it out. They'll get exotic cars with like carbon ceramic brakes, and instead of changing the rotors, they'll just keep doing what's called a pad slap, just switch out the brake pads until the basically rotor disintegrates or cracks. Now you have safety issues, all kinds of stuff. You can get sued. On top of that, it affects the value of your car. If you ever go to resale it, the first thing a lot of these exotic car people do is say, hey, what are the maintenance records of this car? If you tell them it's a rental car, you're gonna have an uphill climb. But if you have a rental car and it has lots of maintenance records and you took care of it and everything else, you probably shouldn't have that many issues. But unfortunately, majority of these people will not set money aside for maintenance, tune-ups, everything else. I remember flying down to Miami and renting a Lamborghini Huracan Spider for a weekend. When I tell you that that car looked like hammered dog shit, every seat had holes and cigarette burns in it, smelled like weed. I think there was like 4 or 5 dents and scratches all over the car. Every single wheel was curbed. Every tire was a different brand, and he was renting this thing out for $1,000 a day. Now, with all that being said, even if he was renting it for $1,000 a day just to like blow it out, I would still put some of that money together to actually clean up the car, because it's kind of embarrassing. Just imagine if, this is your one time you saved up money, maybe it's your wedding or something like that, and you wanted to rent an exotic car for your honeymoon. How disappointed would you be going up and finding out this car literally looks like it was just a repo that was owned by a tweaker that just beat the hell? And that's kind of the experience that they're giving to people. They just don't care. Maintenance is not a factor. All they want to do is rob the piggy bank. You're going to hear me use this terminology a lot, instead of actually putting money away towards maintenance. So let's say, like I said, he's getting $1,000 a day. Let's just say for, worst case scenario, $700 goes out the door for overhead. So they have $300 in profit. My advice would be put $100 away for maintenance, $100 put towards your car for depreciation, and that last $100 put inside for operational costs or pocket or whatever else or profit, just so you have that separated. But they don't do that. They will continue to take every dollar they make from the rental and put it straight into their pocket and not pay any of the maintenance. And the second reason why most exotic rental car companies fail is because of business licensing, insurance, and business practices. This is what drives me nuts about our industry. Now, I want everyone to actually get in there and basically rent cars and make some money, and have fun doing it, but you cannot rent out exotic cars to the general public unless you actually have an exotic car license. I know a lot of you guys are renting them through Turo, which is fine. You have that insurance, but just remember, Turo has a cap of $150,000. So if you're renting your $300,000 exotic on Turo and they crash into a brick wall and catch it on fire, you're only going to get a check for $150. But as long as you know that, just remember that. Now, if you're dealing with the general public, now you have to have your own insurance, but plus you have to make sure that they have insurance as well. And this is the downfall. 99% of these gurus on YouTube and social media, rental car automation, join this, I'll rent out your car for you, blah, blah, blah. None of these clowns have insurance, a license, a bond. Most of them don't even own any cars. They're literally just using your car to drive around after you consign it to them, which is really bad. I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of people out there that are trying to take your money to do this exotic rental car company. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth when it comes to why you should stay away from doing exotic rentals. The biggest thing is insurance. It is impossible for a new company to get exotic rental car insurance. In the last 10 years, I've only seen one person be able to do it, and it's only because they had a lot of money. Now, to get an insurance policy, it's very, very tricky. You have to have a proven track record. So you don't have to have an exotic rental car company. You can have a regular rental car company, do business for 2 years, and then eventually maybe add one exotic car. You have a proven track record, and most insurance companies will allow you to add one of those cars on there. If you're trying to open up right from the get-go with 3 or 4 exotics, the insurance company will not write you a policy. The last one we did was a guy in Houston. The insurance company had so many stipulations. He had to have minimum of 5 cars. All 5 cars had to be in his name. They had to be paid off and owned outright, and he had to put $500,000 in a secured account that they would hold against any type of claims for the first 2 years. And even on top of that, they charged him $2,500 a month per car. Let that sink in. Whenever you hear me or Rob Ferretti or even Houston talk about why exotic rental car companies are so expensive and it's really not worth the headache anymore, it's because it's not. If you do it correctly, the right way, legally, it costs a lot of money to do business. Now, why am I going to sit here and try to rent out my Huracan for $2,200 being licensed correctly when there's some clown that has no job, no house, no car? He took some rental car from some other person or some lease, and he's renting it out for $1,000 a month on Facebook and Craigslist. How am I supposed to compete? He has no overhead. He has no liabilities. He's just renting out other people's cars. That's why we stopped doing it, because there's too many clowns out there giving away cars for free. And I don't care what people say about, oh, well, my attorney, I paid him 20 grand. He wrote this bulletproof contract with no loopholes that if the customer crashes the car, he has to pay. I'm here to tell you this. If you don't have the correct insurance or the correct licensing and that exotic car is not in your name, if you get into an accident and you hit, let's say, a school bus and a bunch of people die, the insurance company is not going to pay you. They're getting smart. First thing they're going to do is, what is this? Oh, this was a rental car. The customer has to use their insurance. They're going to look at the registration. Well, who's Bob Smith? This is not, Las Vegas Exotic Rentals. Who is this? Oh, well, that's my friend's car that he gave to me because he couldn't afford it, so now I'm leasing it out through my rental car company. They will purposely not pay your claim because they know that you can't go to court to fight it because you're not a real company. You don't have any money, they have no liabilities, and this is why so many people are starting to have issues. If they crash the cars, most of these broker jokers or these people that take your cars and rent them out to people wind up walking away. Remember, you guys are business partners when the money's coming in. Once you have to start paying money out, it's your problem. You got to deal with it. Now it's a you thing. And that's what these guys do. So that's why I tell everybody, if you want to do exotic rental cars, don't give them to other people. Think about it this way. I've been on YouTube for 4 or 5 years now. I've had hundreds of people say, hey, Lucky, I'm going to send you my cars, rent them out. And I always say no. Why would I do this? Why would I not want to take your cars and say I don't want the headache or liability because it's not worth it and I can't do it and I can't insure them under my policy? Because I can't, because it's illegal for me to take your car and rent it out to a bunch of random people here in Vegas. But yet all these guys on YouTube and social media and Instagram are like, oh, bro, give me your cars, exotic rental car automation. I'll make you a bunch of money. Just give me your cars and I'll show you how to do it. Don't believe the hype. It's not like that. Bad business practices are costing people millions of dollars every single year. I've seen people lose their cars. You can look at my videos. I have tons of them on there of horror stories using these broker jokers, these guys that basically will take your car and rent them out to people sometimes, or they just say they're renting them and they'll rack up a bunch of miles just driving around themselves. So stay away from that. So the number one reason why most exotic rental car companies fail is because of defleeting. Now, defleeting is when you're basically selling off your old inventory and buying new stuff. And this cycle happens every 2 to 3 years. And it's because of this, it actually puts rental car companies out of business. Let me explain. So as an actual real licensed rental car company, when I go out to buy a car, I have to go to a commercial bank. I actually have to get a higher interest rate because I'm using the car for commercial use, so the bank will offset its risk. Also, I have to get a shorter term because they want me to outrun depreciation. And then on top of that, I have to put maybe 20 to 30% down because it is a commercial use vehicle and they're worried about me depreciating the vehicle. Now, if you noticed, I kept using the same word over and over again, depreciation. This is what kills a lot of these exotic rental car companies because they buy these cars in their personal name at very, very low interest rates at maybe 84 months. And I've seen some people go to some of these other banks and get 144-month financing on exotic cars and pay just the bare minimum. And that's the problem. If you do this, you wind up being upside down every 2 to 3 years when these cars are basically time to get rid of them and get something new. The depreciation curve is pretty steep on exotics. So what we used to do is if we bought something, we'd drive it around for maybe 5,000-6,000 miles. That could be anywhere from 12 to 24 months, whatever it hits first, either the miles or the year, we get rid of it, go get another car. But since we put so much money down, our payments were higher, and we were constantly paying down the loan, we didn't owe that much. So every time we traded out in a car, we had some sort of equity. And this is what brings me to why everybody's failing now, and another reason why insurance is so freaking high. There's a bunch of these guys out here that bought all these cars, like I said, in their personal name at low interest rates, stringing out the payments forever, making the bare minimum for the last 3 years. Well, guess what? That 2020, whatever, let's say Huracan now has 50,000 miles and it's beat to dog shit, but he still has a loan for $300,000, and he tries to trade it in, and they want to give him maybe $120,000, $140,000 for this car. Now he's upside down, way over $100,000. What is he going to do? He can try to rent it, but now the car's old, it's beat up, it's having maintenance problems. And so this is why a lot of these people wind up failing. They can't rent the cars out anymore. They can't get anything new. The cars break down, they wind up sitting there, and they just cost them money and they let them go. And so they either wind up giving the cars back and failing. That's why it's another reason why it's very hard for you to get any type of commercial exotic car lending, because so many of these guys fail. And another reason why your insurance is so expensive is because when these guys can't sell their cars, they can't afford the payments, and they're upside down, they get desperate, so they start crashing, burning, or the cars mysteriously wind up being stolen. And now they claim this against their insurance because because of their bad business practices. They don't want to come up money out of their pockets because, remember, they're robbing the piggy bank the whole time. Every dollar they made, they never paid down the loan. They never paid towards depreciation. They just put that money in their pocket, living some bougie lifestyle that they really couldn't afford. And so now, because of all the claims and all the people being basically charged up on fraud, this is why it's impossible for people to get new exotic rental car policies. This is why I tell a lot of people, don't even waste your time trying to do this. And if somebody says they can do it for you and they have some magic key and your insurance is not a lot of money, from me to you, they're lying, they're full of shit. Don't trust them. It is very, very expensive, and it's going to cost you a lot of grief. So my advice, if you want to get into the rental car business, start off with something regular. The reason why I stopped doing a lot of the Highlines and the exotics is because of the ROI, return of investment. If I had a $100,000 convertible Porsche and I was renting it out for $200, $300 a day, but I had a $18,000 U-Haul box truck with a liftgate that I was renting out commercially for $200 to $300 a day, the ROI on the $18,000 car is much, much higher. So why would I risk $100,000 to make the exact same amount of money? And this is what got me switching my mindset over. So don't get me wrong, owning an exotic rental car company is fun. But I'm telling you right now, majority of you guys cannot afford it. So stay away from it. And if you're using Turo to rent out your exotic car, remember, their insurance only goes up to $150,000. I think in some states, it's even lower than that. So make sure you double check and protect yourself, because like I said, if you're renting out a $300,000 car and they crash it, you are not going to get the difference. And if you try to call your personal insurance company to cover it, they're going to laugh at you and cancel your policy, and they're going to flag your account. So every time you try to go for insurance, they're going to say you use these cars for commercial use, and they're going to basically blackball you. So do not do it. Just rent regular cars, eventually build up to getting exotic rental cars. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to know your opinion on the exotic rental car market. Did you guys know, is this much of a pain in the ass? Also, did this deter you from actually wanting to start a rental car company, or are you still thinking of getting into an exotic rental car company? Let me know. Also, if you're going to do just regular cars, and if you're doing Turo, let me know what kind of cars you're renting and how much you're renting them for, and if your state covers anything over $150,000 when it comes to exotics. Anyways, I want to thank you guys again so much, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next video.